Oh, landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess. And does anybody want some vegan bacon? Just asking. But we just did a live stream and we went back in on the Ozark Trail Orange D2 dropout. And I mentioned it before. I thought I was done with this thing, but you guys keep pulling me back in. So let me recap what's happening here. This is a bit of a special case. All right. So, Outdoors 55 did his video taking a look at this thing. And in his video, the performance of the knife that he had was absolutely god-awful. It did not make it through a lot of cardboard before the edge was completely wrecked. And so I wanted to replicate the video and replicate his testing as much as possible. Okay, so I shared my thoughts on it in his video. I was like, hey, I did my testing. This thing outperformed what it should have by a lot, like an ungodly amount of cutting. And so Tactical Llama EDC said, maybe try cutting across the grain instead of with the grain to see if that makes a difference. That's what he was doing. Maybe you should do that. And I said, you know what? I'll take a look at that. And from that point, you know, I thought about that video. I was like, wait a minute. I think I can come very, very close to replicating his test as close as is humanly possible. So we're going to dive into what happened with that, but there's also a couple of points of discussion that I'd like to throw out there. You know, one of those is the question of using, you know, cut time instead of counting the number of cuts specifically. And, you know, that for us, we get consistent and repeatable results with the same steels. We get consistent results with like 8CR13. We get very consistent results about 2.5 hours on a factory edge, about 3.5 with a brand new 18-degree edge. 3CR will push about an hour and 20 minutes-ish, give or take, on a factory edge. And then a new edge will take 2 hours 20, 2 hours 30 minutes. D4 will be about 4 hours. It's reliable and it's consistent, and we get a good idea of what the steel does. And we have found some softer examples of steel doing that. We do get to watch the edge degrade in real time as we do that with the sharpness tester, but that's out there. I also saw a few comments scattered here and there saying that, you know, Outdoors 55 like went out of his way to trash the knife as fast as possible because he was biased or something like that, or he's doing it for clicks. I don't know. I don't see that coming from him. I trust the channel pretty implicitly. I trust what he, I trust what he puts out there. I trust his results. I've been watching his videos for a long damn time now, ever since the $25 eBay Damascus knife video. And like, the stuff's been good, you know, and like I'm enough of a fan that, you know, I started freehand sharpening on the back of his videos. And I learned how to freehand sharpen from his videos. I can do an okay job. I can get it down into the 120s on my sharpness tester. Not too shabby on a cheap $7 sharpening block, 4-sided, that I got from Harbor Freight years ago. God knows what kind of cross-contamination that diamond grit has. Dear God. But, so, you know, we replicated the test as much as possible. All right, he was cutting double wall cardboard against the grain, so I got all the double wall cardboard I could find. This stuff right here. It looks to be packed a bit more densely than the cardboard he had, but it's as close as we could get. I think this might have been a bit tougher to cut than what he had, but without holding the cut piece of cardboard he used in my hands, there's no telling. We both did double wall cuts, and I did go against the grain instead of with it like we normally do. Now, one thing that was pointed out in the comments that I found very interesting was Outpost 76. And if you check the comments in the last video that I did on this, I pinned that comment. But he was saying him and a couple other guys have extensively tested whether cutting with the grain or against the grain makes a difference. And he said in their testing, one guy doing exclusively with the grain, someone else doing exclusively against the grain with the same knives, with the edges sharpened pretty much identically, they got the same results across the board. What I encountered tonight really backs that up. It really backs it up. So, you know, well, one thing I did, like, he sharpened his knife. He put a mirrored out edge on it. He hogged a ton of material off, over 10 sharpenings to try to get past any burnt material. I didn't quite sharpen this one 10 separate times, but I hogged off an ungodly amount of material, making the laid back bevel that I like, the wide bevel at 17 degrees, and it's been sharpened probably 3 times now. A lot of material removal. So I did the best I could to replicate his mirrored out edge. I'm not sure exactly what angle he went with, but we went with that. That seems to be where the D2 is the happiest. Most D2s with a thin profile, in my experience, have been very happy at 17 degrees and stayed happy through a lot of cutting. That 17 degrees really added some extra time to those cuts. It seems to be what it likes. So I got the double wall cardboard out, and on the sharpness tester I have right here with the calibrated test clips, it tested at a 163 before we started. So we went in for about 30 minutes, and the edge wasn't dying on us really. So we stopped and checked at 30 minutes, and we got a 304 on the tester, which is a dulled edge. It's not the end of the world. It was still doing the cut test on paper and handling it. So we went for another 30 minutes, and we got 351 on the tester, which is some quick degradation. Now, the double wall stuff that we were pushing through was way more hardcore than what I normally cut for the sake of both my hand, the enjoyability of the live stream, and also so we can really watch the edge degrade, and it's the same stuff I can get, so we had the same kind of cardboard from test to test to test to test. All right, this was a special occasion, so we did it a little bit differently. And just that first hour to an hour and 15 minutes was nothing but double wall cardboard until I ran out. Now, one of the things that came up was, and I know it's going to be a problem if I didn't do it for this particular test, I counted the number of cuts I made. I made 493 cuts in this double wall cardboard, and it averaged out to about 7 inches, give or take. A lot of those cuts were about 9 inches, and then there was a large handful of smaller cuts, but the median range was about 7 inches. So, roughly 287 feet of this double wall cardboard right here. And the edge was still going at 351. So, we broke out the single wall stuff, and we kept cutting against the grain on the single wall stuff because that's all I had. And in another 30 minutes, we got down to 434 on the tester. Now, that's still a dull edge, but not completely devastated, you know. And I was looking for the results that Outdoors 55 got. It couldn't do the cut on the printer paper, and the cardboard was tearing and rolling instead of cutting, and it wasn't there yet. So we kept going for another half hour. At the 2-hour mark, it was pushing 537 in the worst spot, still cutting the copy paper, still not tearing and rolling the cardboard yet. 3 hours, it hit 622, which is like right there at the edge of completely devastated territory. And at 3 hours and 15 minutes, we started getting this. We started cutting with the grain. And I will say, when you're cutting with the grain, this happens a bit easier than cutting against the grain. We did a few more cuts against the grain, and we got better cuts than this. But this is what Outdoors 55 was seeing at the end of his testing, so that's what I was looking for on mine, and 669 is a completely devastated edge. Okay? So that's what happened with this one. You know, this one we've got to control. We have got to control. We have got this one, the one in my wife's car, have both done the Cardboard Slayer Gauntlet on the factory edge and the 17-degree edge, respectively. This one did, I believe it was this one that did 7 hours on the factory edge of just nonstop cutting that single wall along the grain. And that 400 some odd cuts was 493 cuts was a lot slower than we normally do the single wall with, because it's just so much harder to fight through that. So much harder. But I counted those for you guys. I didn't want to have to do it because I knew it was going to be a lot. But normally we'll average like 800 to 900 cuts in about an hour of cutting on single wall. So a lot of feet of cardboard it went through. And on the 17-degree edge, it went for 8 hours. Sorry. But it went for about 8 hours on that set. So we know this one is good. And again, that number is so impressive because every other D2 we have done has crapped out at almost exactly the 4-hour mark every time. The O-Knife D2 seems to be a little bit soft. That crapped out at 3 hours and 30 minutes. But again, very consistent results. That's part of why I freaked out so hard about this. And it was not just one, but two. And this one, we put at a way finer angle than should be, this is recommended for D2. We put it to 15 degrees. Still took 4.5 hours thereabouts to wear out. On a 15-degree edge, it was way too fine for something like this. So, I know these knives perform well. And this totally does not match up with what Outdoors 55 got on his. So, my thoughts on this is he got one with a terrible heat treatment. I have seen complaints across the board with Ozark Trail's quality control issues, stuff like that. God knows I have seen at least one of them. Is it this one? Yeah. So this one, it is definitely not centered very well. And the way the grind is on the top of the blade, it makes it look warped. The edge is still straight. Come on. The edge on it is still straight, but from the top, it looks kind of warped. That's one of the known quality control issues, but I don't have one to show y'all with a bad heat treatment on it. If I snap these, I might see something bad in there, but I'm not going to destroy these right now. I'm still probably going to wind up making content out of them somehow, some way. Y'all keep sucking me back in. But, you know, just wildly different results. And this is part of why, like, I was confident with my claims that this thing is actually kind of ridiculous. I'm not sure what did it exactly. I'm not. I know the way this thing is ground, it's thin blade stock. The hollow grind is pretty shallow into a very soft transition to the flat up here. So it cuts well. Like, it's already going to cut well ground like this. I'm starting to really like the way Ozark Trail does these grinds right here. Like, almost as much as a full flat, and that's saying something. But, you know, I honestly think that he got one that just a very, very bad example. Because, like, even if he didn't get one that's just as confusing as this one, it still should have done a lot more cuts than he got out of it. And no, I don't think he went out of his way to make the knife fail prematurely like that. I genuinely do not think that. I think he got that. I think he did his testing on it in good faith and got the results he got, and he shared them with you. Somebody has something negative to say about something this popular and has had this much positive feedback on it. Yeah, people aren't going to like that. But, you know, I wanted to share the results of my attempt to as closely recreate his testing as possible as I could. And again, Outdoors 55, if you see this, please believe I am not disparaging your testing. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I just wanted to see what happened with one that I knew performed better than my other D2s did for some God knows what mystery. I don't know if Chuck Norris took a piss in their quench tank that day or what, but I had to share this. I really did. You know, and again, if you see this Outdoors 55, sorry I don't know your first name, or I'd use that instead. Yeah, again, I appreciate the channel, and you are where I learned how to freehand sharpen from. So, you know, I can't think of a whole lot else that I wanted to add to that, but I did want to definitely share this. I wanted to do this test, and I will say right now, the ergonomics on this were really good for doing the single wall cardboard for like 8 hours. Not really a major problem there, but an hour of doing that double wall cardboard. This part of my hand is still kind of red and jacked up, but the area around the callus I have developed from doing these live streams, dear God, it hurts. And the pressure the dingus in right here put on this part of my hand, that also hurt. And by the way, I don't want to redo this video, so let's take a look at what we're holding, because it's going to bother you if I don't. Someone will comment about it. But first things first, and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. We got the polypropylene scales. I'm assuming they're polypropylene. They're injection molded plastic. We got the thumb stud. We got the axis lock. Let's flick the stud. And we got, I believe, 3.25 inches of D2 steel. And we got our axis lock. And you can tell my hands are tired because I lose my timing on axis locks pretty bad. The lanyard bead right here is the plastic handle from a pry bar I got from Harbor Freight, and I snapped off the handle to use it for some blacksmithing deal. And I turned that down on a lathe because I figured the orange would look good, and it's way brighter than this. So I like the bead, but it doesn't match as well as I hoped. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of any other point that I wanted to talk about, but I think I've covered everything. Like, that was just, it was a long live stream. It went longer than I thought it would. I kind of figured with the amount of double wall cardboard I brought home, I'd be able to wear the edge out, and at least I didn't think it was going to wear out as fast as his did. I really didn't. But I did expect it to perform at least somewhat better. I was shocked at that result. It threw me for a loop. I did not expect it to go as long as it did after doing that much double wall cardboard. It still surprises me, and I'm not sure what the deal is here. I'm not sure why the ones I have do so much better than some other guys, because I've seen other guys complain about the edge rolling with very minimal use. Some guys have said theirs are going on strong forever. I've got these guys doing this. This thing is just a grab bag of Ozark Trail's QC issues. If you can get one without the QC issues, you're golden. I am keeping an eye out for the new version with the reversible pocket clip to test that out and see maybe new batch, different heat treatment. I don't know. Worth testing. But, yeah, I really can't think of a lot to add. Just my testing didn't match his, and I honestly think he got one that had a bad heat treatment on it. I think he got one that had a terrible heat treatment on it. And, you know, if you get around to snapping the blade off and looking at the grain structure, If you do watch this one, if you get around to snapping it and looking at the grain structure, I am very interested in seeing that. The one that I saw, oh God, was it one of the guys that, I've seen in my live streams, he does some videos, he snapped his and we looked at the grain structure on his, and that grain structure looked really, really good. Light gray, very powdery, very fine grains. It looked good. I am sure I'll get similar out of this if I do it. I just don't want to snap this yet. I don't think I'm done with it. But yeah, as I said, if you get a chance, look at the grain structure. It's not like you're really losing much. So, yeah, I'm going to quit holding you hostage. That's just what happened here. Again, kind of surprising results, kind of not. I'm not sure what to make of it. But, all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in. I appreciate you so, so much. A ton of y'all came in off of that live stream an hour or two ago. I can't thank you enough for that. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We do have giveaways coming up. I promise we do. I'm just trying to get some more stuff in. We got live streams. We got plenty of activities. Comments, I love some feedback. Let's talk about this in the comments. Let's keep it respectful, keep it polite. We're not attacking anybody. We're not taking a dump on somebody else's testing that I do believe was done in good faith. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. And all that being said, y'all have a nice day.